Right, this is the part two of my series of videos about buying buy-to-let. So you've been on Rightmove, you've found potentially three properties, something like that, and you think to yourself, right, we're going to have a crack. You know, which of these three properties are we going to buy? What I would say with the viewings is, go and have a viewing and then leave it maybe 2 weeks. And the estate agents will be on your back. They'll be ringing you up and they'll be going, you've made a viewing. Are you interested? And then you just say to them, I'm looking at three properties. I'm going to buy a property. Can I have a second viewing? That's what I would do. And then when you go around a second time, be very thorough. I know from the past tricks that people do. You can walk into a kitchen and think, oh yeah, this kitchen looks all right, it looks smart, but a lot of people will just put replacement doors on old carcasses, sort of thing. So you can open up people's kitchen cupboards, and people can think you're being nosy, looking at what food they've got in the cupboards. But in reality, all you're doing is checking if all these kitchen carcasses have got holes in. The same with sort of like DIY electrics and DIY plumbing. Go and have a look at the consumer unit. You want a consumer unit that's got breakers in, that's modern. You don't want a consumer unit that's got fuses in, or it's been there, looks like it's been there, some time. The same with radiators. I've noticed in properties, you'll look at a property, and there'll be an extension, and then the radiator pipes for the extension, they've put surface. You'll have pipes running surface on walls and stuff like that. You don't want that. The main thing is with the properties you look at is talk to the estate agents and try and find out what the story is, why the seller is selling the property. Now, like I said before in my previous video, I think if you can get a distressed landlord that's fed up with being a landlord, and then they've put the property up for sale, that might not be a bad thing. And bearing in mind as well, you can go on the internet, Rightmove, and you can find out how much they paid for that property. You can go back 10 years, 5 years, and it will show you on the internet. If you go on like Rightmove or is it House on the Market, or whatever it is, on these websites online, it'll tell you how much they paid for the house. So now you know how much they paid. That gives you a clue on what they'd accept. I mean, it's no good if they've paid 160,000 for the house 5 years ago, and then you think to yourself, I'll make them an offer at 150. It's not going to work because nobody wants to be losing money on a property. But what I'm saying is, if the landlord's that distressed and that fed up, if they paid 160 5 years ago, and they put it on for 175, and then you come along and said, I'll give you 160, you never know, somebody might take it. They might take it. The second thing I would do as well, if the property's empty, which it could be, if it's a distressed landlord, the tenants have gone, the property's empty, go and knock on the door before you make this offer. Go and knock on the neighbour's door and have a chat to the neighbours, because again, that is always worthwhile to find out what the story is. I know I had one of my properties, and I rented it to tenants, and I think they'd been in about 3 years, something like that. And when I went to the house to get it back, it was a right old state. There was like furniture in the garden, rubbish all over the garden, furniture piled up on the drive, sort of thing. And I'd left it to the estate because I use a letting agent. I'd left it to the letting agent, and you think to yourself, oh well, they're going around doing their checks, blah blah blah. Leave it to them. And then I bumped into the next door neighbour, and I said to the next door neighbour, the tenant's moved out. What's going on here then? And the next door neighbour said, "Oh, the tenant's wife decided to commit suicide on Christmas Eve. So that this the tenants, the woman, chucked herself out, threw herself out of an upstairs window. She didn't die. She just went to go to hospital, but threw herself out of an upstairs window, and then went off to hospital. And then you couldn't believe. Bear in mind, this was like about a year and a half ago. All the remnants of that. There was like a pot and a cloth. There was a pot and a cloth that they used to mop up her blood. And a year and a half later, that pot and that mop, that bit of rag, was still outside the front door, and they hadn't moved it for a year and a half. So what I'm saying is, go and speak to the neighbours. If you see a property and you think to yourself, go and speak to the neighbours. I've looked at houses as well, and you go look at a house and you think, oh, this is great. Why is it so cheap? And then you go and look at the neighbour's house, and the neighbours have got like cardboard up at the windows, and they've got all the windows blocked out and stuff like that. So they're obviously nutters, and that is the reason why they can't sell it. Right. So find out the reason why the tenant or the seller wants to sell the house, whatever it might be. It could be a death. It could be an inheritance house or whatever. And then I think once you've got that information, then like I said, make your offer. I don't think you want to go in mega low, because I know, like, I've had properties for sale myself, and if somebody comes along and offers you probably 20 grand less than it's on for, you tend to get your back up, and you tend to go, blah blah blah. You think the person's a tosspot, basically. But I think sort of like if you've looked round a house, and then you can sort of say to the estate agent, well, I've looked round it. It needs some work. The garden's a mess. I need a new kitchen. That's going to cost me 10 grand. If you can sort of say to the estate agent, this is where I'm at. This is where I'm at with it. I've got to spend money on it, and that is why I'm doing a reduced offer, and I'm offering you 15 grand lower than the price. And just say to them as well, I've had people offer on my houses before, and you get these silly stupid people who will go, I'm making this offer and it's for 7 days only, and at 7 days only it will cease, all this sort of nonsense, right? But in reality, if you say to them, look, you say to an estate agent, say, look, I know it's a low offer, I know it's 15 grand lower, have a think about it, the offer's on the table, if they don't want to accept it in the next couple of weeks, in a month's time or in 2 months' time, they might change their mind and get back to me, but the offer's open. Now, in the meantime, you might find another property and make an offer on that and have it, and then in 2 months' time or a month's time, the estate agent rings you up on the previous property and goes, oh, they'll accept your offer now, and you just go, well, I'm sorry, too late, I've bought something else. But I wouldn't do one of these stupid where people do these stupid offers where it's like a time, you've got 7 days to accept, all this sort of nonsense, because all it does is get people's back up. Another good thing I would do as well, when you're on your second viewing, and this happened to me, I bought a house, it was a 2-bed semi-detached house, and I'd done it up, I'd repainted it, new bathroom, got it looking really good. And one of my mates said to me, we were out on a Saturday night in Peterborough having a drink, and one of my mates said to me, have you looked in the attic? And I was like, no, I haven't looked in the attic. I said, that'll be clear, won't it? And he goes, oh, it might not be. So that on the Sunday morning, I went around this house, looked in the attic, and it was rammed. It was full of cardboard boxes and packing material. Obviously, the previous people had like an eBay business, and they'd left it. So again, I think if you if you want to be hands-on, like I said, check the electrics, check the plumbing, go in the attic, try and do a thorough job as you can. A lot of people will say, "Oh, I don't need to do that. I'm having a survey." Them surveys are not worth the paper they're written on. You're paying somebody 250 quid for a survey. If you find something wrong, they're not going to come and put it right. It's down to you to find out what is wrong with the house. So I would do a thorough check on the house, have a really good look around it, chat with the neighbours, and that would be my advice. Normally, when you're buying a house, you'll what I always do as well is put the offer in writing. A lot of people now, they'll just whimsically go, yeah, I'll give you 100 grand or whatever over the phone. But it's nicer if you walk into the estate agents, and you present them with a letter going, I'm making an offer on this property for 100 grand. And then they'll say, the next thing they'll say to you, how are you funding this purchase? And then you can show them your bank book and you can go, look, there's me 25 grand deposit that's been sat in my savings, right, good. And then you might be able to get a letter from a mortgage broker which would say, we can lend this person 100 grand or 120 grand or whatever, or your bank. Your bank would do, if you went in and they would do like, I think they call it a proposal, a mortgage proposal or something like that, they call it, where the bank will do you a letter saying we will lend you this amount of money. So what I'm saying is, if you've walked into the estate agents, you've given them a written letter saying this is what you're offering, you've showed them your bank book, you've showed them that you can get funds from the mortgage, they know you're not a muppet, they know you're not a dreamer. All that information then is going on to the seller, and the estate agents are going, look, it's a proper offer, they've got the funds, because you're not selling a property, it would go through quick as well. And you can say to them, look, I'm quite happy if we can get it done in 12 weeks. I'm quite happy. If it takes longer, I'm quite happy. There's no problems. And then the next thing the estate agent will do, they'll say to you, who is your solicitor? And then it'll be down to you to ring up a local solicitors and go, I'm making a purchase. Can I use you? They'll tell you the fees. Normally on a purchase, you might be looking at about 1,500 quid legal fees for a purchase. Some solicitors are better than others. I would say do your research. I know where I live in Bourne, there is 2 or 3 solicitors, and one of them is absolutely useless. They've got to be the worst solicitors. And I've been in that position where I've bought a house, or I've put an offer on a house, and I've said to the estate agent, they're not using so-and-so solicitors, are they? And they've gone, yes. And my face has dropped because I've thought, you know what, this is going to take forever. Do you know what I mean? Because I know they're useless. So that is the next thing, right? And so hopefully you've found your house, you've had your offer accepted, you've got your mortgage, and it all goes through. And then we're looking at 3 months, 4 months. You get your keys. You go around and look. You get your keys, and you go around and look at your property. Now, what I would say as well is, I've bought properties, and when I've turned up, they've left the washing machine. They've left the fridge freezer. They've left rubbish in the attic. There is scope to then go to your solicitor and say to your solicitor, little photographic evidence, take pictures of this stuff, and then go to your solicitor and then say, look, I've got to get a skip. It's going to cost me 200 quid. Blah blah blah. I want them to pay towards, because they haven't removed all their stuff. Just bear that in mind. You've always got that. You could try that. But that's all I'm doing for now. That is my part 2 and then I'll go to my part 3, which will be preparing your house for renting it. Okay, that's all I'm doing for now. Cheers, bye.